Order the Village of Villa Park Board of Trustees Committee of the whole meeting, April 22nd, 2024. Clerk Konecki, please call the roll.
Trustee Alfano.
Here.
Trustee Cordova. Trustee Corkery. Trustee Kozar.
Here.
Trustee Kumar. Here. Trustee Patrick.
Here.
President Kazone.
Here, will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our item tonight is our strategic plan, our preliminary final report. It's presented for review by the village board, and the final version is completed by CP2 Consulting, Inc. And I'll turn it over to Manager Harline.
Great. I'll do a brief introduction. I mean, you know Corey, and she'll do any additional introduction she feels necessary at this point. But this project, which has been going on, started around the first of the year. We gathered on a February morning at the Iowa Center to do a lot of the work among the people in this room, but other work has contributed to this. 5 focus groups, including 2 from just generally selected from the population, 1 from public employees, 1 from the businesses in Villa Park, and then a final one from public service agencies. There's also a public survey with over 900 participants, and all this information and stuff from these information on projects from the staff has been funneled into these 4 strategic goals chosen by the board with assistance from the department heads of financial resilience, sustainable infrastructure, community engagement, and workforce development. Now, this is not the final, but this is pretty close to the final, and I would like, and Corey will explain what that means. So there are chances to make some tweaks to it. There's some language that you might want to see. There may be errors or small bits of language to change, but by and large, this is the product of a strong process, and it's a very important step forward towards the kind of community and kind of board staff interaction that I think you guys have been looking for, and definitely with the fingerprints of the elected officials and the upper appointed officials all over it. So with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Corey Horsplash of CP2 Consulting.
I will go ahead and jump over here. It is good to see everybody again. By the time I get to this point in the process, I feel like I should be sitting over here rather than sitting over there. But it's really nice to see everybody again. So thank you, Manager Harline, for that introduction. And this really has been a collaborative process, so please feel free to jump in as we go through this as you feel you need it. So we went through, as Manager Harline said, and this has been a whole process. And one of the things that we did is that we went through and we looked at vision. And as you recall, at the retreat, I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to kind of take this away. I'm going to take the input from everybody, and I'm going to bring back to you a draft vision. So this is the draft vision that I have drafted based on your input at that strategic retreat. Every word that is pretty much in here either came from what we had originally or was an addition that came as a result of that. So what I'm going to do is kind of go through this unless somebody sees something that they want to go ahead and stop me, but this was the vision based on that. Mission, same thing. So with the vision, that really, if you remember my airplane graphic, right? And the board really is kind of responsible for that vision and that direction. But as we really start getting down and talking about the work that is done, staff really has got a lot to do with the mission. So we really got some input from staff on that as well, trying to make a blend of those things that came out of the retreat with leadership that they really felt was important, but also blending that with some of the feedback we had gotten from staff. So this is the mission statement that is kind of the culmination of that collaborative process. I know that we had, the fact that Villa Park is a caring place was something that had come out as very important during that process. And so that's actually where the mission statement starts. And then values. The values of service, integrity, stewardship, and adaptability had been determined by staff as part of an internal process, but we really kind of wanted to define what that meant for Villa Park, and again, with elected official input on that. So we have now defined that. And again, part of what came out of that retreat was this conversation about how important it was that people feel welcomed in Villa Park and valued. And the more we kind of went through, we talked about the values, the more we discovered that that really is kind of the foundation or almost the umbrella under which the other values kind of nestle. So we've kind of set that apart. And if you're looking at the hard copy of the strategic plan, it is set apart in there as well, because that really seemed to be the foundational value with the others supplementing that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop real quick. Are there any question about vision, mission, values? All right, then I'm going to keep on going. So I'm going to do a quick reminder, since it's been a little while since we've talked, before we go ahead and look at this. So essentially outcome is, what does success look like? Key outcome indicator, it's what is an indicator you're on track? What can you measure or count? And then target is how we measure progress towards goals. It's a direct relationship between the target and the outcome. And the other thing is that it must be measurable. And normally the formula is something like some sort of change by some sort of date. And with that, here are the outcomes, key outcome indicators, and targets. I'm not going to go through and read all of this because all of you have got this in front of you. But I just want to go ahead and talk through this a little bit. You'll notice that there's a couple of places in here where there are spaces, and that's because that data is not available yet. It may be that it has not been compiled in that way before, but we know that it can be compiled, so it will start being compiled that way, or it simply is unavailable now, but will be later. And so once that data is available, those will be able to be filled in. Any questions about financial resilience? And if you notice those targets, they pretty much all go according to that formula of what kind of a numerical value do we want to see, or what kind of a change do we want to see, and then when can we expect to see it. Now you're going to see that there is a variety of dates built in there. Some of these things, even if they are out away, so I'm going to go ahead real quick, I'm going to look at that last target under that first set, the 40,000 additional square feet of residential space under roof by June of 2028. So that may seem like a really far way away, but at the same time, though, there's a whole lot of things that have to be in place in order for us to meet that. Where if you look at the second one down under that same category, that's something that can be done by 12 of 24. That'll be done by the end of the year. So we've got a variety of things in there with different dates over the next 4 years.
Can I?
Yeah.
Anything that's different than when we left on that Saturday morning in February is only where we came back, staff looked at it and said, we can't get you that number. So we tried to stay as true to the original ideas as possible and still keep the, and Corey was there to tell us no when we tried to stray too far. So, no, where we wanted them, we were trying to come up with numbers that would approach like one of them was increase in population. Well, one of the things that, I didn't take into account was that those population estimates are 5-year running averages. So we're really not measuring what we want to measure there. So anyway, where there was a target that was different on, was it Saturday, 24th of February. The changes between now and then were to get numbers that could actually be measured and then targets set and shot for. So.
Yeah. And again, keeping that intentionality intact. And we knew that when we were setting the targets, that we didn't have sometimes all the data in the room that we were going to need. And so that's exactly why, we did need to go through and make some adjustments with that. So sustainable infrastructure, same kind of thing. We've got a variety of dates that we are going to be able to put in there because, again, this is a 4-year plan. One of the things that I see that can really cause problems with communities doing strategic plans is they're super excited and they front load everything and they burn everybody out. And next thing you know, nothing gets accomplished because they don't really have a measured way of getting there. It's a 4-year plan. So we want to make sure that we have goals over the 4 years. Doesn't mean that we're not going to start any of these things for 4 years, but just some of these that are going to be a longer process, we just took a little bit longer. Community engagement. Same thing, we weren't able to really, if you look particularly on that one about the well-informed community, we were really able to dial those in a little bit better when we were able to get a little bit more information.
And we're going to have to continue to do surveys to get this data and use essentially the same questions on a repeated basis along with other questions. So there are things that we aren't doing right now that we're going to have to do to get this data. I mean, I think those ones are in your original assessment, but so we have a baseline on those. And that's a problem with some of the things is there just wasn't baseline data. That's it. That's the end of my interruption.
No, it's a collaborative process. We're just continuing to collaborate. It's all good. And then the last one was workforce development. Yes, please.
I'm fine with most of it. The only thing is, as they said, there's things that don't have baseline data. So that target should probably be included as to when we will have that baseline data within this targets. Because there will be a date certain by which you will have the baseline data by which to compare this. That
Okay.
is also part of the process.
Yep, we can go ahead and excellent. Any other yes, please?
So when we have the data and we see that, how do we establish benchmarks in this? Are we benchmarking ourselves against Villa Park or comparable communities?
So when we're talking about strategic goals in a strategic plan, it really is for Villa Park, right? So there may be some things in here if you guys choose to, for example, if you want to do a resident satisfaction survey, for example, you may be able to benchmark against other communities. Benchmarking, though, requires that you've got, for example, on a survey, that you've got a random sample, that you're reweighting it. There's a whole lot in there. So unless you go through that very rigorous scientific method, it is hard to benchmark against someone else. But I would say, though, that these are things that you need to be constantly comparing yourself. And if you look at the targets is what kind of a change you are going to see in Villa Park over time with these numbers. So you really are comparing you to you, where you're going to be in the future as compared to where you've been.
Okay, but if we don't have that data from the past, and we're just going through and benchmarking as we go,
And
correct?
then we're going to set a baseline
Got it.
with data now.
Got it, cool.
Yes.
One more thing, the targets, the strategic plan, everything is fine. This is a working document for the next 4 years, and that working document needs updates consistently, maybe yearly, quarterly, whatever you want to do. Yearly, I think is fine, that it's updated, with, we've gotten this far. So for this far, you don't have like a graphic or something that will work. I think it needs to be in there. You can do stoplights, something that we got halfway, full way. thermometers, whatever it is that goes there that tells the community at large where we are on that.
100%. That gets into implementation, and I 100% agree with you. So one of the things that's really important, and actually, if you look under community engagement, that the last column there at the very bottom, second up, strategic plan updates viewable online quarterly. That is exactly it, because that's a big part of the transparency, right? Is making sure you guys have invested a lot in this strategic plan. There's been a lot of effort, there's been a lot of time. And so we want to make sure there's been community input, there's been surveys. We want to make sure that the results are able to be viewed on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, and one is to meet those targets, but also it works as a publicity as well for the village, that we are a good village and we are meeting our target. So it's a two-sided thing with the strategic plan. I think if you don't have that, it'll go into a box where we had a strategic plan, and that's where it goes. Like, that's not where we want to be.
Absolutely not. No, I completely agree with you. And I would say too that sometimes over the next 4 years, sometimes there may be some changes. Having suddenly the entire country shut down in March of 2020 took some strategic plans, and there were some delays. Being able to explain if something happens, maybe you got a grant you weren't expecting and you were able to, go faster with some projects than you expected. Maybe there were some delays that were unexpected. You can explain that as well, because the context is really important. Absolutely.
I would add, remembering exactly what I said, but some of the other, like vacancy rates in businesses, we looked at I think the original thing was number of occupancy permits handed out. Well, as we were discussing this one particularly, is it a win if we have 3 or 4 businesses go in the same 2 locations in 2 years? If we just churn through, if there's a location where businesses are moving in and moving out, if we count occupancy permits, that's a win. But, so that's why we decided to move towards, so there are some things where, after deliberation with some staff that I just wanted to make sure that I didn't leave out some of the.
Yeah,
So-
no, absolutely, absolutely. And as noted, this is a living document. It's a living plan. And so there will be continual updates. And then the initiatives, because here's a question, how are we going to get there, right? So that's the other thing that is in this, is what kinds of strategies, plans can you expect to see that will help to achieve these goals? And so this is all going to be undertaken by staff, and they will, again, be reporting on this on a regular basis. One of the things that Manager Harline and I have been talking about is kind of that reporting process. What is the best way, to be doing that in terms of, linking to budget and reporting to board, and then also reporting to the community as large. So that is an ongoing conversation of, the way that Villa Park is going to do that, but that certainly is on the radar. Any questions?
No, but thank you. I think this is really, it's the gist of all what we discussed when we had our meeting there. And it's nice, too, that there is a plan for updating and reporting, which I think that was the one thing lacked on the last time we did this. It was a nice plan, sat there, and we did things as we went along, but it wasn't out there. We would say sometimes, this meets this part of the strategic plan, but it's nice seeing that it'll be out there every quarter, and there's a plan for that.
Yeah,
Very good.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because, really, it's, when we get into the initiatives, it's important to know who's doing it, when they're doing it, what they're doing, and all of that, and that will all be reported, so that's very transparent. Villa Park's got a lot of great things going on, and it's kind of a window into this world, to let everybody know that.
Good. Okay, any other comments? Questions?
So then, if there are, I have noted that the couple of edits that you have, if there's anything else, if you could let Manager Harline know, and otherwise, I think that we are just about there.
Great, thank you. Would you mind saying if there's any public comments?
Sure, absolutely.
Anyone from the public?
Evening. Joe Amore, 309 East Maple Street. The positives noted in the strategic plan preliminary report confirmed what is possible when good people work together for a common purpose to make Villa Park a great place to live, work, and visit. I note that areas needing improvement are not unfamiliar to this and previous boards. For example, the reference to the need of a grade separation on page 11 at the fifth bullet point under key takeaways has been advocated for by me and others since the mid-2000s. Below that, the next bullet point references a centralized business district or true downtown is desirable. Villa Park is the lone DuPage County community where transit-oriented development along the Metro UP West Line is stalled and incomplete. Noting page 15's weaknesses, lack of implementation of goals, and threats, lack of sales tax generators, can be resolved by reimagining TIF 6 to create projects like the Union to grow revenue and provide affordable senior housing, which is also sorely needed. This could become a transit hub, the starting point of a bicycle network, and paths to reduce dependence on vehicles that ultimately damage our roads. The 2018 Bike Master Plan needs to be implemented and completed as suggested on page 17's Sustainable Infrastructure Plan. Today is Earth Day, yet I saw no mention of adding green initiatives like EV charging at the metro station as a revenue generator, or adding solar panels to village-owned structures to reduce cost. Check out the Daily Herald article from Sunday, April 14th, Suburban Business section on the successes of the 2021 Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. Our village fleet is mostly captive, parking overnight in the same place. Electric vehicles are currently sitting on dealer lots waiting for those who understand how much cheaper it is to not rely on fossil fuels. Don't wait for fuel to reach $5 per gallon to decide. Those vehicles will be sold. Finally, there's a great network of advisory commissions staffed by village resident volunteers. The recommendations need thorough consideration with a streamlined process to achieve action from the board and staff. Another huge asset would be having a full-time grant writer to bring in more projects like Lufkin Park and the Rec Center, which may not have been possible without the part-time grant writer at Parks and Recreation. Let's take these and the recommendations of CP2 to take Villa Park well into the 21st century. I know it can be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
And here's a copy of that article.
Thanks, Joe.
Anyone else for public comments? Okay, thanks, Corey.
In closing, thank you very much. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time working with Villa Park, the elected board, and with staff. So it's been a really good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Corey. I'd also like to thank this elected board for the time you guys have put into it, and the staff, the department heads, for not only the weekends, but also the other sessions that we've spent together trying to put this together and put together something that has targets and has something that we can judge ourselves of how close we're getting. Thank you, Corey. It was a good process.
Thanks. Okay. Trustee Kozar.
So what's our next steps here? We're going to have an opportunity to suggest certain changes and stuff like that before this becomes our final draft. You said this is I think the introduction was that this was the kind of the beginning of the final, something to that effect. This is not it, right? We've got things to add and we have the ability to add some input. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it isn't finalized yet, but I'll let Corey handle that.
So normally at this point in the process, because of the fact that we have gotten all sorts of input kind of all of the way through, and this is a result of all of that input, it is normally about 99.5% done. If there are some slight adjustments, if there are some edits or whatever, certainly we want to be open, to those. But because of the fact that this has been such a collaborative process to get us here, normally by this point it is mostly done. But I don't ever want to completely, close the door if you see something and you go, "Is that right?" And you go, "Oh, maybe we should look at that again real quick." But I would consider it to be, the preliminary final report was probably a good way to put it. It should be pretty close to done.
Okay. Okay, any other? Okay,
Okay.
thanks again. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn from Committee of the Whole. Trustee Kumar, do we have a second? Trustee Cordova. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, any opposed? Okay. And we will close the Committee of the Whole meeting, and then we will adjourn our regular board meeting at 7 o'clock. Thanks, everyone, for being here.